Well, we have made it to back to school season here in Central Texas, and sellers right now are facing what I'm calling a double whammy of headwinds. Number one is the typical seasonal slowdown in demand as we get into mid to late summer and heading into the fall, along with that oversupply. And number two, we've seen a rise in interest rates over the summer as well. So let's dive in and take a look. Well, these are just a few of the headlines that we saw over the last week. This one from the New York Post: a whopping 79% of home buyers in this pandemic era boom town, hint Austin, are now selling at a loss. So, what the article talks about is that so many people bought homes during the pandemic. Obviously, Austin's prices have adjusted since then. They've come down, depending on where you look, 25 to 30%. Since 2022. Well, you can imagine most of those sellers are now selling below what they purchased the home for. So that is the statistics that this article is hinting at, but of course, pointing to some pain in the Austin metro. This next article talks about the 5 major housing markets that have the most motivated sellers. Shock, Austin tops this list as well. This is kind of an old picture of downtown Austin, but if we go down in the article, it talks about the motivated seller index, from 0 being not motivated at all to 10 being, oh my God, everybody's giving the house away. They're ranking Austin at about a 7.2. So pretty motivated. Listings with price cuts, almost 54%. The median price cuts, 5.3%. I'll show you some more data. It might be higher than that. Listed below the prior purchase price, 8.7%. I think that's low. It's probably higher than that. Now, granted, if you bought before the pandemic, you're fine. You are selling above what you paid for it. But if you bought it maybe late 2020 or later, odds are you are selling below what you listed it for. Price change from the May 2022 peaks dropped about 31%. So those are some of those negative headlines where we're seeing Austin continue to show up in the news. So let's look at the data. I talked about a double whammy. Let's talk about the first one. So what we're looking at right now, this is Austin in real time. I should say this is July data, so the last full month of data. We're okay. We're sitting at about 4.7 months of inventory. Historically, that's not the worst. We're not strong buyer's market there. But in terms of active listings, we still have a lot of active supply in the market. Price reductions continue to be a story, and pendings kind of are still lagging the price reductions. And I'll show that to you as well. More importantly, let's talk about supply-demand imbalance. So supply is on the left-hand side. The dark orange is this year. The lighter orange, kind of faded orange, is where we were last year. The only slight bit of good news here is that our supply is a little bit less than where we were last year. So we may have passed our peak of oversupply. But if you see that dotted line going through the middle, that is the 10-year average of supply. Well, we are way above that. So we have a lot more sellers than normal. More importantly, look at the way the bell curve curves over the course of the year. We're now in the back half of the year. So what that means is, yes, there will be sellers coming out of the market. That's good if you're a seller. You're going to have less supply to compete with. But if you look over on the demand side, that bell curve matches, right? It goes up in the spring, peaks out maybe around May, and then it tapers off the rest of the year. That's buyer demand. How many buyers are out shopping and looking for homes? Well, every month it kind of drops. And so if you look at where we are right now, we peaked on demand back in April. That's when the market was the spring. Interest rates were lower. I don't know. I think we started the war in Iran in March, so we were already in there, but interest rates were a little lower there, and that helped. And then once we got through April, we've already seen demand start to taper off. And so sellers, you're feeling that. We're below the 10-year average on demand, way above supply, and that's why it feels really slow out there. You're not getting a lot of buyers in the door. So that's where we're talking about demand. One more thing I wanted to point out. This talks about success rate and new inventory. Success rate is what percent of buyers, when they go under contract, make it to the finish line. It's still okay, but it's around 75%. So 3 out of 4 buyers, but that means 25% are going to terminate. And they're going to choose another house or change their mind, or maybe they don't get what they wanted in negotiations with the seller after an inspection. So there's a number of reasons a buyer may back out, but just know it's not a certainty once we go under contract. That's still another battle to face. New inventory is where we're seeing sellers bringing new homes to market. The only good news here is that's kind of average. We're kind of in line with the 10-year average there. So supply continues to be one of the supply combined with that waning demand is one of the major headwinds for sellers. The other one is interest rates. So if we look at rates right now, we're about 6.75%. If we go back to February, right before the war broke out, we were at 5.99%. So interest rates had been coming down through January and February, and it was looking really good for a great spring. And it did actually help, I think, in the spring, even when the war broke out. Even though rates jumped up, they were still like maybe low sixes. So what happened was we had a pretty good spring, and then rates kept going up, and the Iran war keeps getting a little less certain, and oil prices stayed high, and inflation stays high. And so what's happening is it's kept mortgage rates climbing higher. So if I go down to the chart down here, this is from June 1. I ran it from June 1 to today. So again, if we go back to the beginning of the summer, we were sitting around, 6.5, 6.6, 6.5, through maybe June. And then it has just kept going up. 6. Now we have 6.7, 6.6, 6.85, 6.83. Now we're at 6.74. So what's happened is rates just keep going up at the same time buyers peaked out and are starting to drop off. You push those two things together, you're going to feel it in the market. That's fewer buyers coming in the door, fewer buyers out there hunting. Even if they're interested to buy a house, maybe they're waiting to see if these rates come down, so they're not urgent. So again, from a seller's point of view, these are the two headwinds we want to keep an eye on and just be aware of. We can't change them. So we just have to compete in that sandbox. Where are we right now? This is one to talk about. I want to talk about price drops. So what's happening in the market? So this little market watch box, right now, this is MLS as of this morning, the last 7 days of activity. So if we look at this, active listings, 1,000, price decreases, 1,667. Okay, so we've had a lot of price decreases, more than active listings. Under contract, if I add these two numbers together, we're maybe around 850, 875. So we have twice as many sellers reducing the price than we do getting a contract offer. And what does that look like in reality when sellers are price dropping? So if we look at July, how many active homes right now have had a price drop? About 7,500 homes out of 13,000. That's about 57% of sellers so far, or even in July, have had a price reduction. Don't go off the average price drop. That's too high. But days until the price drop, maybe every 3 weeks or so, they're dropping the price. Average price drop's about 8%. And so that's what we're looking at there. If we go down into price tiers, and again, each price tier is a couple hundred grand, 200, 300, 400, 500, so et cetera. These are the list prices of homes. The sweet spot of homes, which is your kind of $300,000 to $800,000 homes, we're probably looking at, maybe almost 60% on average of sellers have had a price reduction. And on average, they've lowered their price somewhere between 6 and 8%. So again, even if our listing, we don't lower the price, this is what your competition is doing. And so we're competing in that sandbox where even if we stay still, the market is adjusting prices to get buyers. So pay attention to that. This is a little inflated. There we go. Finally, this is real time. Where are we on that supply demand curve? We talked about this. This is what last fall looks like. This is what the spring has looked like. And now we can see that bell curve on supply peaking off. Same thing down here with demand, which is blue, closed sales. We probably peaked out in June on sales, 3,300 in May and June. So not bad. But July, so far, we're down to about 28.95. So again, fewer buyers, fewer contracts. Some of that too is interest rates. So if you're a seller right now, we really want to be watching weekly traffic, open house traffic, more importantly, private showings. Those are buyers who have already secured their realtor. They can go see the house whenever they want. They're more likely to write contracts if they already have a realtor and they're out there doing private showings. So we want to be really monitoring that traffic. And number two, we need to be watching what the neighborhood is doing, what the competition is doing, because those buyers aren't just looking at our house. They're going to look at everyone else's house as well to make a decision. If you're a buyer right now, this is all working in your favor. Yes, interest rates maybe is the headwind that you're going to have to face, but there's lots of supply, there's lots of motivated sellers, and your competition is slowly pulling out. So, as a buyer, this becomes what I call a sweeter spot to be house hunting right now. Anyways, hope this was helpful. We will be bringing these videos to you each and every week right here on our YouTube channel at Ryan Kelly Group. Make sure to click that subscribe button. And if you, of course, if you know anybody looking to buy, sell, or invest here in the Austin market, would love the opportunity to chat with you. Anyways, my kids will start school next week, but there are some starting school right now. So good luck to those kiddos in the new school year, and we'll talk to you next Monday. Thanks.